to Cannabis Health Radio, where we share powerful, real-life stories from people around the world who are using cannabis as medicine. The goal of this podcast is to raise awareness of the healing potential of cannabis and is not intended as medical advice. And now, here's your host, Ian Jessop.
Welcome to the Cannabis Health Radio podcast. I'm Ian Jessop. Joining me today from Nimbin, Australia, is Michael Balderson, a longtime cannabis advocate and president of Australia's Hemp Party, and one of the key voices behind the Nimbin Hemp Embassy. Often described as a sanctuary for those seeking healing through cannabis, Nimbin has become a kind of outdoor weed hospital, a place where stories of recovery, resilience, and activism intersect. Michael's personal experience with Ptsd and his late introduction to cannabis at age 25 shaped his passionate journey into advocacy. Through his work, he's connected with countless Australians using cannabis daily for a wide range of medical issues. And he also helps publish Voices from the Real World, a booklet filled with the powerful testimonies of those who've turned to cannabis when conventional options fell short. Michael, it's good to talk to you. We've tried this a couple of times, but because of the reception and time issues, we didn't get it done, but today looks good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Perseverance furthers. Yeah, thanks for hanging in.
Michael, tell us about your PTSD issue. What's behind that?
So, I'm a country boy. Grew up in the country, went to a tiny little school we'd ride a horse or a bike to. So my parents sent me off to boarding school when I was 10. And it really was a bad experience for me. I realize now I shut down. It was an all-boys school, old school English traditions. So, as I understand it now, when you have childhood trauma, you kind of draw the curtains on it to, stop you. I couldn't cry, for example. So I leave school early, didn't enjoy school, leave school early, go home on the farm, restless, drinking. I ended up joining a stockbroker and got on well, and they sent me to London. By now I'm 23 or so. I was always drinking a lot. I didn't really know anything about drugs, had a sheltered life, I guess, in many ways. And anyway, I kind of, there I was in London ringing up Swiss banks, helping them get richer, and life wasn't making enough sense to me. So I quit, and we drove overland to India. I think really I was on a spiritual search. I needed to know if there was a God or not, or is it just dog eat dog? What's going on here? So it was actually in Afghanistan the first time I really got stoned, and possibly the strongest hash on the planet. I'm hallucinating, And I don't know, it let the plug out of the back of my head or something, I just took the pressure off. I experienced kind of a state of mind that was peaceful or something. And also I was in an orange orchard. The whole thing went liquid in Kandahar. It was interesting. Anyway, that sort of set me off on a search, and I never really drank alcohol much again. Always loved cannabis. I've had periods where I didn't smoke for a while, but always went back to it. I used to get shocking migraines, and at some point, smoking pot, I realized I'm not getting any migraines. That was huge. Anyway, it's been a long journey. That's 50 years ago now. And I blew my head up once trying too hard to work out God, which you can't kind of work out. And I ended up back in Australia a bit over 40 years ago with children, and came to Nimbin looking for like-minded people. I'd spent 10 years wandering around overseas, a few years in India, the Middle East, lived in Greece for 2 years, trying to work out who I was, what am I going to do, where's my path, if you like.
Yeah, you're on a path of self-discovery.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nimbin the university students in Australia held a Back to the Earth festival in 1973, and Nimbin was a dying little country town, and they bought lots of the buildings and started hippie communes, and possibly a bit like Northern California or something back in the day. And here I kind of found my tribe, if you like. But meanwhile, Nimbin had become, the marijuana capital of Australia, if you like. People knew, we can always go to Nimbin, you can score pot. People would be on the street selling pot. And it was mostly heroin addicts selling pot then. And they were the ones desperate enough to take the risk. They were the ones who went to jail. There were sporadic police raids, and on it goes. I visited during the 70s and then came to live here in the mid-80s. And it was really the street dealers, the junkies, who taught me about prohibition. And I hadn't really thought about it. And I read a bit, and the more I read and the more I looked at it, the more I realised this drug war is huge. Pain relief is probably the best business on the planet. And here's all these people fighting over the profits from it and not so much caring about the people. And, I think I slowly woke up, and then with a few mates, we used to get big police raids on the communities. They'd come with helicopters. It was like military exercise. And, we started this rally. We made a giant joint, sewed sheets together on a bamboo frame and marched to the police station on May the 1st. That was, I think, back in 1992. We had such a good day and felt kind of empowered that we thought we're going to do this every year. So MardiGrass was born, which is now in its 33rd year, and that kind of embedded Nimbin as a bit of a marijuana capital. But again, the more I learnt, the more I thought, what can we do about it? So we formed a political party, and that trickled along for a long time, the Hemp Party, Help End Marijuana Prohibition. And then maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I'm not exactly sure, Queenslanders started a legalised cannabis party, and we changed our name to Legalised Cannabis, and that gave us quite a hit. And I think the legalising of cannabis in Canada and America, particularly all the publicity with America, kind of put it on the agenda, and we started getting votes. And then the government legalised medical cannabis here in 1996. It was very hard to get. You had to be a special access scheme. You had to have tried everything else first. Hang up there. And again, that put it on the agenda more. And then when COVID came along, telehealth marketing started in Australia. They started doing cannabis. And that was terrific, just a lot of people got access to it. Really, it was a bit of a scam, I'd have to admit. People were just finding a way to do it, but it opened it all up. So I think there's been like a million prescriptions now. Maybe 1 million people have accessed legal cannabis. It's nearly all coming in from Canada, although quite a few other countries now. But suddenly, cannabis was on the agenda, and we've now got 4 members of parliament in, 2 in Victoria, 1 New South, 1 in Western Australia. So back in the day, it used to be just to get the issue on the agenda, but now, how can we really make change? And it's proven to be extremely difficult.
When you say the cannabis is coming in from Canada, explain exactly what is arriving in Australia from Canada.
So there would be tincture, or mostly it's flour, and it's possibly, a lot of it is quite cheap leftover flour from Canada's excess. I think the government wouldn't allow importing from America because federally you're not legal. Some of it's coming from Europe. I see Thailand now. All sorts of countries are trying to send it in. And I think the conditions for Australian growers, it's a lot of money to get a license, and I think probably more rules here too. So more than 50% is coming in from Canada, as I know it, flower. And people then are buying it, telehealth marketers. It's in the mail 2 days later. And the doctors are trying to crack down on it, but the horse has bolted in a way. I'm not sure what will happen. It reminds me of Thailand, where suddenly they legalised cannabis. Now they're trying to pull it back in. We'll see what happens.
What is you mentioned doctors. I assume that the attitude of the medical profession in Australia is in opposition to cannabis.
It always has been. It's still officially got no proven medical use. It's just, because basically our Therapeutic Goods Association, which controls which medicines are acceptable or not, have set up an obstacle course, if you like, which cannabis has never got through, being a herb, and you've got to do double-blind placebo trials. So they've really made the rules and made sure cannabis stayed out of the market. And I think it was epileptic children that changed the course of it. And it was an Aboriginal fellow who was making his own medicine and treating epileptic children. And he started doing it here from the Hemp Embassy. We started this Hemp Embassy along with MardiGrass 30-odd years ago, just to educate people about prohibition, really. And in the end, he got arrested and jailed, but got the publicity. And who was going to argue against, little children having hundreds of seizures, and suddenly cannabis just stopped it? It was like a miracle. So that kicked the door open. And from there, it's like the plant is the teacher in the end, because the doctors are not taught anything about cannabis at all in their getting their degree. But once people started getting it, here's the patients talking to the doctors, and the doctors are saying, whoa, suddenly you're sleeping okay, or your cancer's come back or retreated a bit, or, you're not having seizures like you were. So it's like the patients are teaching the doctors here almost at the moment. It's an interesting situation, and somehow the doctors have got control of the market, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk to a doctor today and talk about the endocannabinoid system, and they would have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. There are some doctors the last 10 years have run courses for a few doctors, but the telehealth thing is like doctors who have just finished university with a big debt to getting paid well to pay it off, and talking to people on the phone. So a lot of cannabis users, it's always been popular in Australia, a lot of cannabis users are rolling over to get medical weed, because if you do get busted, the courts are a bit more sympathetic. And we have terrible driving rules where, police can pull you over, test your saliva, and any trace of THC, you lose your license. So it's been our big struggle to change. So Victoria's now got, if you've got a prescription, a magistrate can let you off now. So that's about where we're up to. So people are keen to have a prescription. It's got a bit more respect, but the stigma is still huge, I'd have to say.
Well, it is in North America as well, surprisingly. I mean, you can go out and you can buy a case of whiskey and go out and get absolutely shit-faced, drunk, start a fight, and somehow that's fine. But if you want to get high THC, that's against the law. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And it just, you have to think, are you people crazy? Just think about it. I mean, I want to stay home and I want to get high and I want to help my family by making some cannabis oil and assisting others to improve their health. But you will allow me to go out and get drunk but you won't allow me to help other people? It's insane. It baffles the mind. And I think that's one of the things that you're struggling with in Australia, correct?
Well, I think, what did Hitler say? If you tell a lie often enough, it'll be believed.
That's right.
And I read recently how the pharmaceutical industry is putting more money than ever into their propaganda and lies. And, they've got the money, so they're taking out the political ministers and their minders, and yeah, I'm constantly amazed by. Now it's like medical cannabis is safe, but that stuff that's not grown legally, that's clearly dangerous. I mean, we're talking the same plant everywhere. So, yeah, it's a slow process. I read a thing last week where California's, I think, 37% of Californians had used cannabis in the last month. And, 50% of them using it daily. So it takes a long time for people to rediscover how this plant might be good for you. So,
and the biggest increase in usage is people our age, the older generation, because of the aches and pains that we have, and how it eradicates a lot of that or assists.
Yeah.
And on this podcast, we've done over 450 interviews. And we've done some incredible stories about people saving their own lives or saving the lives of someone else. And Corey Ellen, my co-host who passed this year, she was given 4 to 6 months to live with anal canal cancer. And it was cannabis that saved her life, and she got an extra 12 years. And she didn't die of anal canal cancer. She died of polymyalgia rheumatica, and sepsis got her. So it's, it's unbelievable, the stories that we've had on this podcast and the help that this plant has given people and saved lives. And I mention this over and over again, Michael. We've interviewed about 25 people who've had brain cancer, very, very bloody serious, and all but 2 of them are still alive today. I mean, it's remarkable. No pharmaceutical has that success, right?
And to think in 10,000 years no one has died from using it, it's extraordinary, really. And I think, from what I see, most pain is inflammation and swelling, and cannabis has this fantastic property of, anti-inflammatory. And also, people don't realize you don't actually have to get stoned to get some benefit out of it also. So, yeah, there's a lot of propaganda and nonsense that has to get sort of washed away. It will take a while yet, but certainly Canada especially, I think, you guys carved the way in many ways in the Commonwealth anyway. Like England is still the same, and sometimes I think Australia, until the motherland makes a move, we're not going to either in a big way. Our Prime Minister won't even utter the word, and he's not a bad guy. It's like, he's just not game to go for it. So we're optimistic. We've got a 3-step policy in the parliaments where we've got members, which is, to allow people to grow 6 plants and carry 50 grams and share their cannabis. And eventually, have social clubs and dispensaries and try to have micro licenses, give people jobs rather than let big cannabis take over, which kind of is already happening, I'd have to say. But I think slowly but surely, like you mentioned that book we've got, Voices from the Real World, there are so many fantastic stories now getting out there, and, people come to us and, like you say, old people. So the old grumpy grandpa goes home and starts getting a good sleep, and his arthritis is not as bad, and everyone hears about it. So really, people are doing it, aren't they?
They are, yeah. It's in Australia is I think, like around the world, the stigma of cannabis is related to smoking cannabis and getting high. The health benefits are something that people obtain afterwards. They think, "Oh my God," like you with your PTSD.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that cleared up, and you got focus in life. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, that's a good comment. So one of my ways of trying to explain it, what happens to me is, if you've got a muddy pool of water, you stir up a pond of water. When I smoke cannabis, all the mud settles and you can see clearly through the water. It's a bit like that for my mind. out of that comes the healing. I don't get the migraines, I don't have the stress I carry or whatever. I think a lot of people with PTSD love cannabis. And I think, on different levels, we've all got PTSD. No one had the perfect childhood. So we all carry various levels of trauma. And I mean, when veterans came back from Iraq and Afghanistan, they just love cannabis. That is serious PTSD. I mean, I wish the police would use it, because the police carry heaps of this kind of stress. So it's, the word is spreading. It's slowly getting out there, and Australians are kind of a bit of a cynical mob anyway, I reckon. So they there's a lot of cannabis use, and it goes with drinking. There's not a lot of people who politically engage. And we don't have a Bill of Rights in this country, so we could never kind of get it on the agenda for the people to vote. So we've just got to try and get politicians interested. Anyway, it's hard to get it to the top of the pile.
Michael, tell us some of the stories that you've experienced over the years of people in Australia who have used cannabis and the benefits that they've obtained from it.
Well, PTSD, like I said, I see is super popular. A lot of people, I think, are daily users because of childhood trauma, to be honest. A lot of people use cannabis to get off other drugs, I find. They talk about cannabis being a gateway drug. It's a gateway out of other drugs, I find. Like we have 30 or 40 different volunteers that help in the Hemp Embassy. Some of them are old ice addicts, heroin addicts, alcoholics. Nimbin is this funny little village, bit of an outdoor hospital like you mentioned, and heaps of alcoholics here who don't drink. They smoke pot instead. So I would say that's one of the great things I've seen about cannabis. It can help you. You can still operate. It's less, it's not harmful, doesn't have the side effects that other drugs do have. Lots of people treating their cancer with cannabis, heaps and heaps of people. And if it can't heal it, it certainly can hold it, would be my experience, can keep it at bay. And a lot of people are having smaller chemo hits and using cannabis. That seems to work also, which is interesting. So, I'm not adverse to some pharmaceutical products. It's more, I wish they weren't be so greedy and let us be involved as well, the herbal world,
Yeah. Do you
A lot of people with on the spectrum love cannabis, I find. All sorts of, ADHD, ADD, OCD, all there's that nervous, I call that the sort of nervous world. They love cannabis for just settling them down, I find. People with Parkinson's love cannabis. I also hear they're loving mushrooms for Parkinson's too, quite a bit.
Yeah. Do you only smoke? Do you take oil at all?
I do. I reckon I'm hooked on the smoking habit. I used to smoke tobacco, and I stopped smoking tobacco, but I reckon I like smoking. So I do smoke joints mostly, but I take CBD in a tincture form. I've taken THC in a tincture form. To get around the driving problems, we have capsules, which from what I understand, don't come back up into your saliva. So a lot of people use capsules, which is a great way to go, but it's quite different. And I find edibles affect you different, come on slowly. You've got to get your dose worked out, or you've had too much or too little, and it's an hour later before you really know. So I guess that self-titration is the easy bit of smoking, but I'm sure it's not the healthiest way to take cannabis. And it's a social thing, I think, having a smoke together. I think people like that too.
Yeah, the edibles I find a bit tricky because you don't know how much you're getting. And like you say, you could have an edible and think, well, there wasn't much in that. I'm going to have another one, and then bang.
I'm a zombie.
Tell me that's right. Like you were when you took your hash in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it is like that. It's just too much. So finding the dose is a very big part of cannabis use, I think, and for a lot of people, it's just a toke, just a tiny little shift. You don't need heaps. So this is all part of where I think a good dispensary will have people to educate people, and that's barely happening now. I mean, Nimbin is unique. It's a unique situation here, and the police at the moment are very cool, very tolerant. They know that, if they raid Nimbin, everyone will go to the pub and get drunk. And then they've got real problems.
Yeah.
So, we don't have the fentanyl issues that you have, although there's an edge of it in the cities, I'm sure. But we're a country of big drinkers, really, Australia. So I notice that's coming back a little bit. Cannabis use is going up. We're in the midst of big change.
Yeah, one of the stories that I'm going to do in the next month or so is a woman whose 9-year-old child was suffering seizures, and she started giving the child cannabis, and the seizures stopped. And the child now is 19, 20, 21. So he's working, so we're trying to arrange mutual time. And I love stories like that because I think nothing can be worse for a parent than having a child have multiple seizures every single day. I mean, if that's not PTSD for a parent, I don't know what is. But for the child, it's horrific.
It is horrific.
Yeah,
I guess you've seen them too. There's videos here we've had of just shocking children and really young children having seizure after seizure after seizure, and for cannabis to completely stop them.
Mm-hmm.
Not only change the child's life, the parent's life, the whole extended family life. So it's like a miracle, really. And
yeah.
very interesting.
Have you seen the YouTube video that came out about 10 years ago of the guy with Parkinson's who was shaking really badly, just terrible, and then he took a couple of tokes and he just normalized?
Yeah.
I mean, it was beautiful to see.
That was my first introduction to really realising the medical properties. So it's very early days in Nimbin, and this old couple used to get their welfare check every 2 weeks, and they'd come down and they'd buy cannabis off the street, and they'd get ripped off. And so they asked me to help them. And so every 2 weeks we'd help them buy a good bag of cannabis. And then one day we said, so it was his wife buying it, and he's in the car. And we asked her what it's about, and she goes, oh, it's about Fred and his Parkinson's. So we got Fred out of the car, and he had the shakes badly. And he had 2 big lungfuls and completely stopped shaking and swayed from side to side with a grin from ear to ear. It was a great moment I always remember. Quite extraordinary for him.
Oh, I love stories like that. It's just amazing. I mean, politicians should see that.
Yeah, politicians have seen it. I went and talked to the health minister with a mother of an epileptic child, and they listened politely. And somewhere, that's 15 years ago, they're just not doing it. I know they're not doing it. Now we've got some members of parliament. Certainly there's a new respect and a bit of ear for it. But the police, I'd have to say, I think have enormous power in Australia. The New South Wales Police is the oldest police service on the planet. And, it's their power. They don't want to lose that power, even though a lot of police on the ground I talked to would be very sympathetic and even voted for us in the election. But somewhere up high, I don't think they're into it. And I think it's very hard to admit they've made a mistake. They've actually been ruining people's lives rather than helping them. That's a big pill to swallow, Yeah. The drug war is their war. It's more than half their work, and the whole thing is a sham for me. It should be a health issue, drug use.
Where do you see it going in Australia in the next 5 years?
I would think we'd have to get it legal, the beginning of legalization within the next few years. Something like what happened in Germany. In the ACT, a tiny little state, or we've got where Canberra is, people are allowed to grow 2 plants and carry 50 grams. So we're chasing a change like that. We'd rather have 6 plants, and you can not only carry but share 50 grams. And that's what we're going for. And I think there's a fair chance we'll get some breakthrough in the next few years, I think. But, the resistance is huge. Not just the police, the remnants of the church, which has absolutely got a lot of power still. The alcohol industry, they lose money. But really, it's Big Pharma. Big Pharma, clearly you're going to lose money, and they're making so much money. It's just business, from what I can see. It's just money. And, they'll spend billions to try to stop cannabis getting legal. And I think just public opinion is shifting quite quickly now. So it'll have to come. I reckon within 5 years we'll be allowed to possibly grow some plants, and no one will get busted for personal amounts anymore. And it's coming.
Yeah, it's there are 2 countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical advertising on television. That's the United States and New Zealand. And in the United States, they spent over $5 billion on advertising. And so you don't have the media on your side because they realize the pharmaceutical industry helps pay their bills. Yeah, it's
you're spot on. And you know what it is in Australia also? It's gambling. They tried to stop the insane gambling that's going on in Australia, and they couldn't because the media is making a fortune out of advertising.
Jeez, yeah. It's all about education, Michael. It's all about education, and that's what we have to continue to do. And I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Love your work. Good on you.
Thank you.
We'll get there.
Are you looking for quality RSO or have questions about how to take it? Al Moranton with MyFitLife is our new trusted wellness partner, and Al is offering something really special for you, a completely free 30-minute consultation to discuss your specific health challenges. Al will give you honest advice about his cannabis products and wellness supplements that might help your situation. Ready to get real answers? Go to myfitlife.net/cannabis health to schedule your free consultation and mention Cannabis Health Radio to receive 20% off anything you decide is right for you. Thank you for listening to Cannabis Health Radio.
Thanks for tuning in. You can find more information and check out all our past episodes at cannabishealthradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and follow us on social media and our Rumble channel. This podcast is listener supported, so if you've found it helpful, please consider making a donation, big or small, right on our site. And if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Leaving a quick review also helps others discover us. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks again.